My name's Judy Haiven, and by day I'm a professor in the Department of Management at St. Mary's University. My area is normally labor market theory, and it's also industrial relations. Today I'm here to talk a little bit about what we could do with the $8 to $9 million that we would be seeing our province giving every single year in interest payments in order to borrow about $140 million for a new trade centre if it were to be developed. If the province goes ahead with a new trade centre, the province will be on the hook for about $140 million to build this centre in downtown Halifax. Since the province has to go out and borrow the money, the cost of borrowing at just over 6% would be about $8 to $9 million a year. Our children and our children's children will be servicing this debt, as well as ourselves, of course. So I'd like to give you an idea of what we could spend the $8 to $9 million a year doing. One thing that we could do is that in Nova Scotia, there is not adequate public transportation between smaller centres, and a lot of older people plus students don't have cars, and they need to come to Halifax for medical appointments or to go to university. $10 million, which is which is a little more than the $9 million we're forecasting right now, could be spent for 1 year in building an infrastructure for a new Nova Scotia Transportation Authority, which would start to move buses between the smaller centres and Halifax. The alternative provincial budget from the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives tells us it would cost $20 million for this kind of infrastructure. So every year of 2 years is all we'd need for with this kind of money to build the infrastructure and buy the buses to start to transport people around the province and enable people to take buses instead of cars, instead of getting their neighbours to drive them to medical appointments or to the universities. $9 million would also represent a 20% increase for welfare recipients. If we gave the $9 million to the people currently on social assistance in this province, it would mean that there would be a 20% increase to their rates, which would mean less begging on the street, more people being properly housed, and generally more money for people on these long-term benefits. You have to also realize that social scientists and sociologists have told us that most of the people on social assistance have mental or physical health problems. It isn't their lack of will to work. So a 20% increase in welfare rates would be extremely welcome. Another thing that $9 million could buy is $9 million could go a long way to housing the homeless. In Halifax alone, there were over 1,700 people homeless in 2009. $9 million would give each of those people approximately $500 a month to spend on housing. If we put the money into building apartment buildings or shelters over the period of a few years, all of the homeless could be housed. What can $9 million buy? $9 million can also buy food for Feed Nova Scotia. Right now, Feed Nova Scotia in the last year gave over $14.4 million worth of food to more than 40,000 people in this province alone who depend on food banks. If we gave Feed Nova Scotia $9 million more every year, it would add 62% to the amount of food and the quality of food given to people who can't afford to use supermarkets and don't have the family income to eat healthy food. Another thing $9 million could do is it could give a start to people whose children need early childhood education. To give every Nova Scotian child the best start in life, early learning and pre-primary education is vital. The cost is only $2.3 million for every 4-year-old to be able to go to daycare or school early. In other words, early below the age of 5. And that's what only $2.3 million would give us education for all 4-year-olds in the province. Most provinces, incidentally, already have preschool education that's paid for by the government for children of the age of 4. Another thing $9 million can do is that we're told all the time that Nova Scotia schools are ill-equipped to deal with students who have special needs. They're ill-equipped because they don't have money for private tutors and they don't have money for people who are helpers to these students with special needs. $2 million would create a special needs services program through the Nova Scotia Department of Education, and that would hugely contribute to across-the-board help for people with special needs in the school system. $9 million would also cut Nova Scotia's community college tuition fees in half. $9 million would cut Nova Scotia University tuition students' fees by $500 per year.